Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having Colin and I at Dartmouth here at the Irving Institute with the Energy Justice Clinic. Today, we are going to talk about connecting your work back to your community. And first, being a social media person, I'm going to have to tell you a little bit about myself. Oh, there we go. So hello, my name is Doria Brown. I'm a social media creator, and I'm also the energy manager for the city of Nashua. And one of my favorite quotes is, the greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate action of its members, and that's by Coretta Scott King. And I want to go over some things that I do for the city of Nashua as the energy manager. So I manage the city's energy portfolio. So I buy electricity and I buy natural gas for the city. So we'll do a RFP process where we will purchase kilowatt hours and we'll purchase therms for a period of time. So we'll purchase electricity for a year, sometimes 4 years, based on the price. Same for natural gas. I also lead Nashua's community power program, and that's a program that allows the city to negotiate for electricity supply for the entire community. So do you guys know what an electric bill might look like? Do you guys get an electric bill yet? You do? That's awesome. Congratulations. You're officially an adult. But when you get an electric bill, you'll see a line that says distribution, and then you'll see a line that says supply. So we are able to negotiate the supply price for electricity in the city of Nashua through our community power program. And since we've launched our program, we've taken that price down from 22 cents a kilowatt hour down to 15 cents a kilowatt hour. Then it was down to 10, and now we're at 8.2 cents or 8.1 cents a kilowatt hour. And we've been under the utility every time we've negotiated for our electricity supply, and we've been able to give lots of savings to the community. Thank you. I also lead our energy efficiency measures. So whenever we do a renovation or something like that for the city, currently we're working on our firehouses. We'll do an energy audit and we'll see what energy upgrades we can do in the building. We did the same for our police department. We've worked on public health, and we're also working on our new builds. One of my most exciting projects that is kind of in the works is for our new DPW building. So they built the building already right next to our landfill, and we have landfill gas to energy, and we're working on being able to purchase the lines around that building to be able to create a microgrid that runs off of the landfill gas energy from our landfill, and that would create a completely circular system where we can have our future fleet of electric vehicles charged directly from the trash that we put into our landfill. The next thing I do is help transition our city's fleet to reduce emissions. We are currently working to transition our passenger vehicles to electric and are looking at larger vehicles as they become more affordable. And the last thing I've been working on is sustainability planning. So the city has officially passed our first sustainability plan last week. It's called the Livable Nashua Plan. And the plan strips back a lot of typical sustainability planning greenwashing, and it gets to specifically what Nashua needs to do to further its sustainability journey. So there are a lot of sustainability plans out there, and I'm not going to put them down or anything like that that might not have aligned with where Nashua is currently. A lot of times when communities do sustainability planning, it's the first step in their journey. So they're looking for a lot of kind of blanket terms like net zero or zero emissions or stuff like that. But Nashua, we've been on this journey for a little while. We just have never had a plan in place. So we were able to take some of our experiences and put this into something that will actually really help us as we move forward with this process. And I have some of our action items on another slide, but we're really excited about it. The planning process involved the whole community. We had a 24-person multi-department team work on the plan. We had 27 high school students look through our actions and give feedback. We had 2 volunteer communities, the Conservation Committee and the Environment and Energy Committee. And we had 280 community members answer our survey about our planning process. And we have ensured accountability. On another slide, I'll show you our progress tracker, but I will get into that later. So here are some of our actions. You cannot see them very well. I apologize, but they exist. So we have 5 different sections, which I forgot to go over. I'm gonna go back. So we have 5 different sections for our plan. They are clean energy and efficient buildings, resilient and healthy community, smart waste and management, sustainable transportation and land use, and thriving natural resources. So I put some of the actions from each section. So this first one, strategy 1.1, that is from our energy section. The 2.1 is from our healthy community section. 3.1 is from waste. 2.1 is from transportation, and 3.1 is from natural resources. So all of these strategies are very specific. They're not like, let's buy electric vehicles at some point in time. We have stuff that says, create a formalized municipal zero emission vehicle purchasing policy that considers operational requirements of vehicles and availability of suitable models at time of replacement. So goals like this really get to the nitty-gritty. So we're not going to say we're going to transition every single vehicle we have to electric just because. We're going to get zero-emission electric vehicles because they work for the process that they'll be used for. For example, we are looking at our passenger vehicles, but we've been looking at garbage trucks. And we've done a ton of research into garbage trucks. But we found that an electric garbage truck costs twice as much as a gas garbage truck right now. And in order for them to be used in our process, we'd have to buy 2 to be able to do the route that they currently do in one go. We would have to buy 2 electric vehicles that cost twice as much to fit into our system. So we're not looking at electric garbage trucks right now. But we did find that our police, they have I called them the dog napper, but like they're an officer that does animal control. We found that they had the perfect application for an electric vehicle. So we were able to get them an electric van. This vehicle does a route around the city, and they're able to charge it in 8 hours at a level 2 charger that's at the police station, and it was the perfect application. And this was a group that was very apprehensive about electric vehicles at first, because they felt like if they were ever in an emergency pursuit or something like that, and they, I don't know, chased a vehicle for 250 miles, this is like at a worst case scenario, I guess, in their heads, which could happen. They would run out of battery and then not be able to go anymore. But what would happen if they ran out of gas? They wouldn't be able to go anymore. They'd have to fill up and probably lose the person that was running away. But we're working on our thought process here. But this was an opportunity to be able to show them that it does work in their process. Here's an opportunity, and they love it. The police department likes the vehicle. It currently smells like skunk, but that's okay. So these strategies are all honed towards Nashua, and will really work for our community because they're meant for us, not just for anybody, because sustainability isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. So here is our community progress tracker, because we believe in accountability. So if you go on livablnashua.org, you can look at our progress tracker. For every single action we have a little site where it'll tell you the timeline we have for the project, the status of the project, and just like where we are. We'll be able to update like a little note, like we have a meeting coming up about this, if you would like to come to that. And we also can give or get feedback from people. Like if they're like, oh, we really want this action to happen sooner rather than later, people can let us know. And we also have opportunities for people to get involved. And I spelled process wrong. I'm sorry. I knew that was going to happen.
Weir, Brown, Beacon, and I were invited to attend a Clean Energy Freedom event hosted by Grounded. There, I got to talk about energy issues with the United States Secretary of Energy, Jennifer Granholm. Here's what I have to say. A lot of my following are very young people who are just starting out their lives and getting their own apartments. So a lot of times when we talk about energy efficiency, we talk about it for homeowners, but there aren't many solutions for people who are renting. So I think having more information out there for young people who are renters and are looking to decrease their energy bills, especially as they're experiencing the most expensive energy that I think our generation has ever experienced.
So in addition to my work with the City of Nashua, I also have the Earth Stewardess platform on social media. I started this platform in 2020 during COVID, and it has grown, not significantly, but a little bit, where I can say that I am a social media creator. The goal of the platform is to take complicated topics and make them easier to digest. And I joined the EcoTalk TikTok house in 2020, where I met Trash Colin. And I'm going to do a little bit of an intro on how our unlikely friendship formed. So clearly, I know a little bit about government and how it works. And Colin's really cool. He cleans up trash on beaches. And I remember I was on TikTok scrolling one day and I was like, who is this guy? He's like picking up trash. He says sig butt weird. He's like, I got a sig butt, sig butt, sig butt. I'm like, what is going on here? But look at the positive impact he has on all of these people. He has a ton of young people that are coming together to watch him do something that's just picking up trash. And it's really become a gateway for people to understand what sustainability is and how they can have an impact on their community. And I thought that was awesome. And then one day I saw Colin making toy boxes on the beach, and I was like, that's really cool. And then the next day he was upset because his local government took the toy boxes away because they thought that they were trash. And I did a little bit of a deep dive because I can be a little bit of a stalker sometimes. And I was like, where does Colin live? So I looked up where Colin lived and I was like, oh, he's in this county. And I was like, how do they manage the beaches? So I looked up their government municipal website, every meeting they have and like people he can talk to get these toy boxes going, and connected him with his local government using a little bit of my knowledge and a little bit of my social media to give to Colin. And I'm gonna give it over to him now.
Hello. So I want to start off, that was like, I don't know how you found that. I try really hard to not let people know where I'm at, but.
I just can't help it.
When I got that text message though, it literally started probably like a course of my life that I don't even think I was ready for. Because the toy box came up because every day I was going out to the beach, just trying to encourage people to, originally it started with me just picking up trash and being like, why are people visiting where I live and trashing it? And then as I was doing that, we all learned how much Doria knows about scholar level stuff and how much you guys do. I, for one, dropped out of college about 8 weeks in, and I just didn't feel like I could fit into that space. So what I did on the flip was I decided to pursue and kind of like follow my ambitions of being in the creator space. And so I spent 5 years like in and out of LA, just hanging out with a bunch of people who were making videos, and I learned it front to back. And anything I tried though was never like, it would never catch. So I told myself that I was done trying and I was like just gonna go move back home and just live my life there. And the first week I got back, I got a job on the beach, renting out jet skis and cabanas. And so many people would come up to me and be like, this is my favorite place in the world. I love bringing my family here. And then I would watch them trash it as they left. And so I never understood that. And I wanted to bring like some awareness to it. So I just started posting Instagram stories, and then that started landing with people and resonating with people. So I was like, I think I could just match what I know of the creator space and bring that to this messaging to that kind of landscape. Because at the time I hadn't seen anybody taking that approach or even trying to like just candidly educate on certain things on. Now I see it all the time. I can't scroll without seeing it. And I really love that. So I just started picking up trash, and what started as me just being like, I'm gonna save the world by picking up garbage, quickly became it became more evident to me what I was actually doing. I read this book, it's called Is It Really Green? And this book breaks down every part of your life down to what color your refrigerator should be and where it should sit in your house to have the lowest amount of emissions. And I read that and I was like, I'm just sweeping up the after party. I'm not even doing anything to stop this. And so that began my journey of working backwards. So I was picking up trash, and on a content level, it's so visually pleasing for people to see a problem immediately be solved. Then when you transition into the emissions and lowering emissions and stuff that people can't see as easy, that's where the nuances and those other talking points are easily come up in the comments, is because it's harder to show. And so while I was seeing the success of how many people were resonating with the trash, I was trying to use that as a way to work backwards and try to use that as a way to kind of, as I was learning it, taking my audience with me as I learn it too. And still keeping that authentic, admitting when I got something wrong, fixing when it's out of spot. And all of that to say, I finally made it out to the beach January 2022, and this was the 7th day in a row I had just found beach toys. And from my understanding, people would buy the toys and they would play with them on the beach, and then when they went home, they couldn't fit them in the suitcases. So what I like to believe is that they left it in the sand, hoping some other kid would eventually come take it. I can't fathom someone would just be like, that's fine there. So eventually when I just kept keeping the toys, and I eventually ran out of space. So I dumped them all out in one video, and I was like, what should we do with this? And all of my comments were like, make a toy box, make a toy box. And I thought that was such a cool idea. So I found all this recycled wood. I spent a week making this box, and I don't know how to build stuff. So I was trying my hardest. And I painted it, I made it all look nice, and I put the box onto the beach, and the video overnight, 5 million views. So it went viral, and I was like, wow, this is really something people care about. Next day, it was gone, like Doria said. And so I really didn't know what to do. I was kind of just thinking I'll just make another one, keep doing it till they stop. Because I wasn't aware of permits. That's how unaware of the process I was in. So I was literally just starting. And through that, I realized, if you're in a city, you kind of need city permits, and you got to talk to them. So Doria, when she gave me all of this information, I was like, wow, that's really cool. Even down to reach out to this commissioner, she's going to be the most receptive to this idea. Really a deep dive. And I was like, wow.
I promise I don't know where she lives. Okay.
And so I went to the meeting, my first town hall meeting ever, nervous. There was only 3 people there. And I got in front of the council, and at the time, the video was 5.3 million views. I started a petition that had 6,000 signatures. Mind you, the town that I live in, the average age is about 60, and there's 12,000 people. So they were there's that much attention for our little beach. And so I kind of was I don't want to tell them no. I don't want to tell them that you said no. And that was the first time I really saw the leverage of my social following implementing into my community. And so unanimous yeses right there. We put it out, and then the next thing I know, in my county, we have beach towns. So there's eight beach towns who all have their own mayor, and then they do a monthly meeting called the Big C meeting, where all the beach mayors come together and talk about different things. So they had me speak at one of those meetings, and then all of a sudden, toy boxes started popping up on all these different beaches. And it was never even a moment for me oh, you gotta consult me and put my name on this toy box. I was if there's toy boxes, that's all I care about. That's really what I wanted to see. And through approaching it in that authentic manner, it's really tough with social media to kind of carve out that mindset, especially with how much views come in and how easy it is to attach your ego to what you do.
And people also get afraid of you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. And that's why when I started, there was this moment where I knew I had to be optimistic and had to have a positive mindset, because that was when I saw people wanting to sit down at these tables with me and kind of figure out how we can go. I mentioned this earlier in the class, but I genuinely believe I have the most wholesome TikTok comments, because there can be something that someone says that is a hot take, we'll say. And then someone will come in and they'll have a conducive conversation, And I'm like, there's no way I'm on TikTok right now reading these comments, because that any other comment section I feel is like everybody's just going. But the fact that I've purposely spent time making videos explaining what I'm trying to do is taking people, and the idea for me is I want to bring you along on my personal journey so you can pick up where I left off and start from there. So that's kind of how I started just making videos every single day. And my audience is about 7 to 14, so that's where I get to have a lot of fun. I make a lot of kids content. And what was really shocking to me at first was when I would make a video specifically for someone 8 years old, and then I would get their parents being like, I didn't know this. That's really cool. That's something I just learned. And so that was the first tell to me that this information has been skipping a couple generations. And we're like respectfully a little bit behind in terms of like our understanding of recycling and waste in the US. So I wanted to take that as a point from my account to kind of be the gateway into sustainability for children that are interested, or helping people realize they care. That's a huge thing for me. In Florida, if you talk to anybody that's a surfer, a fisherman, a boat captain, anything, no matter where they fall politically, they have this not only love for the ocean, but this inherent responsibility to go out of their way to protect it. So living in a state like Florida, where it's like we know they land politically, it's always been super interesting for me to kind of thread that line of helping people realize that this is something we are all caring about, and not hitting those trigger words and those words that'll turn people away.
Yep.
And so there's been a huge, recently, I'm super excited that this happened this week actually, because it falls perfectly into what we want to talk about. But there's been, my town has asked me basically like, how can we get a younger group of people into here without ruining the sleepy beach town vibe we already have? And so they came to me with this idea, which I thought was wild, but they want to brand our beach as Nature's Beach. And they made an app. We're the first beach that I know of that has an app. And like, it tells you the rules of the beach. It tells you like, you can make a request if you see something wrong. And now we can't claim that ignorance is the reason you did something, because it's in your hand, the information. And so now they're working with me to be like, how can we get more people to use the app? How do we get people to realize the cool stuff that's in our beach town? And I'm just some dude that dropped out of college and picked up trash one day. So that is what I really want to express while we're going over these videos is this is the Wild West right now. Anything works. And the weirder it is, the more it works. And like, you want to do it intentionally. With social media, it's super easy to be a flash in a pan. And that's where the trends are. And that's where, you know, the quick little fads are. And this is not a fad. This is not a trend. This is something that all of us are caring about for generations to come. And so building the content in that way has really helped me show that this is an everyday action, and it doesn't have to be 30 bags of trash every day. It could be the simple thing of just talking about it, the things you care about, to the people around you. So I think I have a couple videos in here that kind of just give an idea of the content. Both of the videos that we're gonna play are examples of my city, like the people that work for the city on the beach, either just calling me up like, hey, you wanna come film this trash we just found? Or like helping us educate people walking the beach about why we're knocking down sandcastles for the sea turtles and everything. So I think this is a great way to lean into that.
All right. I'm going to have to do like a pause really quick. So bear with me. But one of them is going to play.
Shut the heck up. Someone took the time to racing team. These so satisfyingly organized the toy box.
I did it.
We got different categories of buckets. Whoever did this, I've been meaning to.
Woo!
I almost
and that was
did
my
it.
videos. So
Shut the heck up. Someone took the time to
making
I
vines.
did it.
so satisfyingly organize the toy box. I mean, we got different categories of buckets. Whoever did this, I've been meaning to do this, so thank you. Oh, boy. Okay, let me stop. So I got a text from Mike earlier saying there's some stuff on the beach up here, so let's go check it out. Good morning. I heard there's trash, so you know I had to come down here.
It's very disappointing. I mean, congratulations for the people that got married.
Oh, hi, Maribel and Louise.
The date?
Yeah, okay. Why you gotta trample the signs? Is this a toy box? Or what is it? Could be. This is absolutely wild that this is just what you guys stumbled upon. The craziest thing too is these flip-flops aren't even like used.
Look at that.
They probably just decorated. I bet they hung them off, sir.
I'll take the shoes.
Yep, shoes in the box.
Do you want me to, so just drop everything in here? Do you want me to take the boat too?
You can have whatever.
Okay. Glad we found something to do with all this stuff. And that we're going to donate these shoes. That's actually really awesome. Huge thank you to Mike and Lisa for letting me know about this. Teamwork. And Lisa is the mayor, and she's out here in the stand helping with problems like this.
So that was the first version, and that's the toy box too. That box that we found, they're gonna turn it into a new toy box, and we're gonna put it on a different part of the beach. And so this one is more of a turtle-based video. This next one.
See if I can successfully do this.
You guys see the turtle nesting team? These trucks are moving. I'm trying to get there as fast as I can. How's it going, guys? Early nest? Is that what's happening? Do you guys just come out here early then just to check and just to see? I'm gonna go check. I'm gonna go knock these down for you guys. Thank you. Oh, I'm kind of nervous to knock these down. These are really nice. Now I feel bad. Oh, that's actually so cool. Here. I got an idea. I got nervous. I mean, if one of you guys stand by me, I would be a lot less nervous because then I'd be like, let's do it. Let's all admire this sandcastle before we knock it down. All right, ready? In my head, that worked way better. Leave it to Mike. He's always got it. You missed it, but I just skated it. That was the first sandcastle of the season. And now they get to make a new one. Yeah, we're high. It's like an Easter egg hunt. You gotta try and get them. We're knocking the sandcastles down so the turtles can get through easier. It's a lot of fun, too. If you see one, go ahead.
I will spread the word.
Well, happy turtle nesting season. Here's the trash I found today. Peace.
So that's like the energy that I try to bring to every video because when I was doing my analytics at the start of this, there was this really harsh trend that I was finding that I think has changed dramatically in the last couple of years, that a lot of men think being green is feminine. And I never really there was a quote that said, the future of our generation are in the hands of men who are afraid of the color green. And that's kind of like why I wanted to make it seem like a cool, fun thing that anybody could do. And it's like a fun thing you get out of it. I wanted to kind of almost instill some FOMO for people that weren't doing this. And that's why I try to just bring like a fun, just show the fun that I have. I genuinely have so much fun out there in the morning. And I think if I could just have people understand the idea of like, it really gives something back to you. You feel it, even whether in your mental health or just like your day's a little bit better. And then on top of that, I really wanted to see that work. When I started, I was so focused on how can I get that real world impact? How can I get somebody to watch my video and instead of scrolling to the next one, they shut their phone off and go do something? And so I started this idea. I just had hit 1 million followers, and I was doing this thing where I was like, if you guys, doesn't matter where you're from, how many followers you have, if you pick up trash and tag me, I'll duet you. And there was a point where I had like 30 kids a day sending me videos of them picking up trash, to the point where I had to like make rules. I was like, you gotta wear a glove, you gotta have somebody know where you're at all times. Because there is a lot of like engagement with this. And it would be every day I'd post like 2. And I really started seeing that real world impact happen. And so now there's all the time I'm trying to like constantly come up with ideas that are similar to that of how I can get people to really do that real world aspect thing. And there's a cleanup that we just did recently. So sea turtle nesting season starts May 1st or in Tampa Bay. And a lot of the comments that I get about the sandcastles are like, why would you do that? That's so rude.
You get so much hate on the sandcastle.
Yeah.
That's the only time your comment section
Literally.
isn't wholesome.
And then it's things like they could just go around. I'm like, these are literal just born babies. Like, give them some slack. But so I wanted to put the kids in the perspective of these sea turtles. So we hosted a cleanup, and then we had a sandcastle building competition, and then we had a relay race through the sandcastles to kind of give the idea of like, this is not that easy to just go over them. And I think it was really cool watching the kids just like have a lot of fun and then be like, well, that was really hard. And like understanding and just like putting themselves in that perspective, I think has helped them kind of understand why we're doing so. And so I don't even know what's on the next slide, to be real with you.
Oh, that's okay. You're good.
Perfect. So like this morning, I know we did this a little bit in the class earlier, but we were talking about hooks and how effective those are. And the 2 videos that I showed, I've been spending a lot of time finding which hooks work the best. And it's always the ones where you can't figure out what's happening. You don't know what's going on until you're like 5 seconds into the video and you're given a little bit more context. I even find myself watching videos of like, why did I watch that whole thing? You ever seen those videos on Facebook where it's like someone getting patted down and they're at airport security and you're like, what are they gonna find on them? And it's a 13-minute video and they never find anything. Like, it gets me.
Every time.
But so like taking that idea and kind of impact it and putting into my videos, when I was having kids pick up this trash, I was trying to use that as a way to like encourage that next step. Like I would rather have kids go out and pick up trash for clout as opposed to literally anything else that's popular right now. And so when I saw that working, that's when I really started leaning into children's content. And then on top of that, working with, this is the biggest thing I got from Doria. When she encouraged me to go to this town council, I was like, there's nobody here. And I thought it was just because my town was tiny. And then I started going to the other ones and I was like, there's nobody here.
Yeah.
And then when there were people here, I was like, there's nobody under the age of 60. And so I really want to have, like, to see young faces in these like community meetings because we are so overlooked. We're not even considered in these conversations when I'm sitting there. And it's, yes?
One thing with young people going to these meetings is a lot of young people don't know how to approach those meetings. If there's something that young people might be upset about, a lot of times they approach from a place of anger and it's a protest or it's an interruption in the meeting process. Instead of figuring out how can we become a part of the meeting process, how can we go to the correct committees to change the thing that we want to change. So I think young people need to understand how the government process works and how they can apply themselves to it and become more involved. And I think the way you did that, Colin, you could have walked into that committee meeting with your cell phone live streamed to your 1 million followers, and you could have been like, I'm at the town hall meeting right now, and they took away my toy box. Here's the mayor over here. The mayor won't let me have my toy box, and like disrupted the entire meeting. And guess what? There would never be any toy boxes on your beaches.
That's such a fascinating point because a lot of the comments after it got taken off were dump the toys on the town hall floor.
Yep.
And I was like, that would make a statement, but I don't think that's going to make the statement that I want. And then incorporating that too, like having that sit down, like let's just meet at the table and talk. I've seen that genuinely so much more because of the fact that like I'm willing to listen to what you have to say and I'm willing to like work within the parameters that you are in. I've realized a lot. I went to the White House last month, and for me, I was listening to their climate department talk. And they're telling us how much work they've been putting in and how much they've been like really working in the Biden administration to do some of the most impactful sustainability legislation there is yet. And then I asked them what happened with that LNG thing, like how'd that get approved? And so it kind of like took them back for a second because they really appreciated the general public concerns. They wanted to know what just regular Americans were really not landing on and not necessarily misunderstanding, because I don't think that's a misunderstanding, but the misunderstanding that I realized was that these are people genuinely trying to do their best in a system with archaic hoops to jump through on both sides. So it's like these weird boundaries that are so nuanced for each thing that is trying to get passed that it helped me humanize the White House a little bit. And in doing so, I think like I have even more so been willing to step into rooms a lot less angered and passionate and really try to sit and find like where can we, I think a lot of that passion comes from we need the answer now. And that's a lot of the messaging that has been coming up lately is that climate doom, we need to act now. I think we could get that first step. And it doesn't have to be the exact 100% solution, but it's just that collaboration, just like how you said with the police officers, like they were apprehensive and then they're like, oh, this is not so bad. I genuinely think that would be the trend amongst most communities. Instead of just being like, we have to be 100% different, let's just try a little bit. And then you had a great point last night or was it you that said like, what if we didn't, or that was this morning, what if we didn't enact all of these sustainability, like what if climate change wasn't real and we did all of this sustainable switching? Well, then we live in a more sustainable community now, like, and we don't have the climate doom, so it's great. It's a win-win. And I think just where we're at now, especially talking to, I forgot who it was. Sorry, I was talking to somebody, and they were basically saying like, this is, people are starting to understand that we're making that sustainable switch. Like even industries that have been pushing against it for so long are now like, okay, they're trying to use the green messaging to like validate their
Yeah.
industry.
And align themselves with what
Yes.
people want. They're recognizing that people want these things. And there's something that I like to call the Hindenburg effect. Do you guys know what the Hindenburg is? Giant blimp made using hydrogen that caught on fire and killed a lot of people. So we stopped having hydrogen blimps, right? So people are starting to realize climate change is real, and my house is getting flooded more often. This bad thing is happening to me because climate change is occurring. So more and more people are like, this is affecting me. It's going to affect my everyday life, how much it costs to live where I live, and whether where I live is a sustainable place. So they're getting more and more focused on the environment, but they're also in a place where there are words that are triggering to them. Can you guys name like 5 triggering environmental words?
That's a great question. It's probably the one you're thinking of right now.
Do you have any? Here you go.
I'm from Arkansas, and I just know that like global warming, even though like it's real, is like a huge subject.
Yeah, you hear
Global
global warming and it's like, boom, okay, you're woke. And it's like those words, especially from a content perspective, it's a dance. Like you want to still get your point across, whether it's expressing the urgency of something or expressing the importance of something, without also perpetuating climate doom and also instilling so much fear that someone does nothing, while also adding that it's not your fault that this is happening, while also staying away from triggering words that'll immediately block everything you're saying out. So it feels like sometimes, especially with what you're trying to go about talking about, there is a razor thin line that you have to stay in if you really want the most impact to come out of it. We talked about echo chambers earlier, and like that's kind of what happens a lot when you're using such triggering, and I mean triggering in a sense of like, it's now we're talking about politics, like politics thought, and because it's identity politics that have really stopped people from listening and just really willing to hear the other side of it. And that's something that I struggle with personally myself because, like I said, when I started this, I was mad. I was like, why are people doing this to where I live? But when I really started like understanding that some people are genuinely doing what they believe is the best thing, and they have built this belief from things that they have learned throughout their life. So who am I to look at you and be like, you're a bad person because of the world gave you this information? So once I realized that, it really helped me connect and understand people a lot easier, and then realize what they would get out of, a switch of some sort, or maybe a new ordinance of something. And I know when you really start working I work a lot closer with my community government as opposed to like the large scale thing. But
are they the most impactful at the end of the day?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think like just having that, I lost my train of thought. That's embarrassing.
That's okay. I kind of want to pivot if that's all right with you.
Let's do that. I'll think of it at some point.
So, how many of you were in the class with us earlier today? Okay. So we have something that might not seem that new to you, but it's on a new topic. We wanted to do a little bit of a workshop with you guys about hooks again, but this time we want to give you a topic that maybe...
We're going to make it harder because you guys
Yeah.
killed it last time. You
Yeah.
guys literally gave us the best hooks that I wasn't even expecting that. So
Yeah.
do you want to do the demographic thing again too?
No.
Okay.
I don't want to do the demographic thing. I want to do hooks and how they make certain people feel, or like So we're gonna do my work for me, if that's all right. The Nashua Sustainability Plan, I just gave you guys an entire case study about it. So I hope you're taking notes. And I wanna make hooks that attract people living in Nashua to learn more about the sustainability plan. And I wanna make a hook.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Can we? I want to like add an emotion to the hook.
Yeah.
Like, one group will get like, we want to incite like some type of like passionate
Yep.
or some type of like happy news about like good news about the plan, and then maybe something like silly, goofy, or like a fun little fact. Something like a hook that would kind of land in that tone
Yep.
for that demographic.
So we want
So
a
it's
silly
just,
hook.
so the demographic too would be for residents of Nashua.
That's not silly wrong.
No.
Oh, I did it. Yay. So we want a silly hook. We want a serious, somewhat like alarming, pay attention to this hook.
Yeah. Urgent.
Urgent.
Yeah. 3
Yep.
to 5 seconds. Just
Yep.
the first thing somebody hears on a video.
Yep. And then what do we want to do for the last one?
Let's do something good news.
Good news?
Yeah.
Good news. And minus points if you start it with good news. All right.
Do we want to have them just call it out, or just like take 5 minutes to?
Yep. So can we end our live stream
You guys can comment
And
in the live
do-
stream what you guys
Yep.
think would be great.
or like mute us for a little bit? All right. You guys are gonna have to talk to us. We're sorry.
Are we doing like a group thing? Okay, sweet. I like this. So, should we pick like one specific part of the plan first to kind of work that? Okay, let's do waste.
Waste.
Where's waste here?
That's purple. Transition to municipal. Oh no, that's nope. You're right. The yellow is waste.
I know trash when I see it.
You know what trash when you see it. It's true.
So let's pick one of these and then maybe like have that be the thing
Sure.
we're trying to say.
Let's do the most boring one.
Yeah.
When updating cities' facilities retrofit, adopt standards of water-efficient appliances and faucets for all municipal buildings. Yeah, let's do that one.
So new faucets,
Yep. So
water
we,
efficient faucets. That's what we're
So
getting people hyped about.
we're going to do WW 3.1A, and we want a hook that's silly about this, urgent about this, and we want good news.
I'll read it too. When updating city facilities, retrofit existing municipal facilities and adopt standards for water efficient appliances and faucets for all municipal buildings and schools.
Yeah.
That's really hard to read. You write stuff like that? Sweet. This is going to be interesting. How do we get people hyped about any off the top ideas right now? Let's hear it.
Okay, well my thought immediately went to like a dripping faucet, which isn't exactly like efficiency, but it's tangential. And so like like the dripping like sound, like starting with the beat of something. And like, you know like those videos where like people will like slam cabinets or whatever to like make the like
The music?
yeah like
Yeah.
It's like that Tarzan scene with all
yeah,
the
so like
monkeys.
I feel like the drip like starting off something that like leads to either more like water related like sound or something. I don't
That'd be really
Okay.
cool. Like if the whole video, like it built up a beat, and then someone came and like turned it off, and then everything was like, it stopped. Because that's how the faucets, right? What does a water efficient faucet mean?
Low flow, like a faucet that isn't, my specialty isn't water, unfortunately, but a faucet that isn't just like letting all the water out, a faucet that isn't going to drip,
Okay.
stuff like that.
Yeah, all right.
Low flow toilets, toilets that you can say what's going down the drain. Is it poop, more water, pee, less
Oh, is that
water?
with like the 1 water drop, the 2 water drops? Mm-hmm. Interesting.
That's
I
what
didn't
that
know
means.
that was that.
You need a little extra water to get that to go down. Yep, so you have that choice instead of that always being the option.
Okay, so like silly wise, I'm thinking just like, I feel like that one would fit into silly pretty well. Like
Yep.
that'd be a good way to get that information across. Like what would be an urgent situation as to why someone needs to know why the flow of our water faucets are not great?
You know what I would do?
What would you do?
I'd be like, guys, guess what happened to me the other day? That would be my hook. And then I'd be like, I clogged the toilet. Something like that.
No, questions really work though. Like some of my videos I'll always start with like, what is that? Or if the video that we watched too was like, what the heck am I seeing right now? Like that confusion I think really, really works, especially like, I think for something this boring and this like super niche, like the farther weird we have to get with it. So I'm thinking fire hose type like
Okay.
hook, you know? Someone's getting sprayed with a fire hose and they're like, that's ooh, it's a water fountain and they go to, and you know, like Katy Perry getting slammed at the Kids' Choice Awards type thing. And that could kind of be like that visual of maybe we should lower the flow. Lower the flow. We're onto something. We're cooking
Oh
right
my
now.
gosh.
Okay. Yeah, and like so. Also, too, do you want to give like a hook of something that you've done recently that we could do something like what you did? And
Oh, I've got one. So do you guys know the Ice Spice song "You Ain't Even the Fart"? So I used the
That's the Kidz Bop version.
intro to her song. Thank you, the shit. You ain't even the fart, to do a video about methane and methane capture. And then I talked about our landfill gas energy plant. It did really well. Yep.
That's so perfect because like trends, like I did a trend with Jenny, which was the commissioner that you asked me to link up with. And do you remember the sound that was like, meow, 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 meow? And then it was the
hated that
barking
trend.
dog.
Oh my gosh.
That was goofy, but like, and then we did the one where it's like, we danced a little bit and the comments of those videos, once people understood that was my city commissioner, like it was so wholesome. Like just in the video with them, when I was picking up all those shoes and stuff, all of the comments on that video right now are like, shout out to Mayor Lisa. It's awesome to see the mayor out there and stuff. And I think just alone showing that that's a possible thing you can do with your local government, like again, normalizes and humanizes that entity.
I think one thing that's important is when you take those trends that make a lot of people happy, like that meow, 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 meow. I hated that trend. But a lot of people know it and have something positive about it. So if you can take that trend and apply it to the topic you're talking about.
Let's do that. What trends are we like familiar with right now?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind with this prompt was like the aesthetic everything shower trend. So like taking a shower and like
Yes.
washing your hair, you're leaving in your
With
conditioner.
all
you're,
those
like,
bottles.
Doing,
Yep.
that kind of thing. So
That
like,
actually-
more efficient water means like more skincare to add to your like more healthy
Yes.
skincare or something like that. You know, like
Oh, I love that.
That's perfect. Also,
Yes.
I don't know, this just popped in my head when you were talking about that. There is a creator that does water fountain reviews.
What?
Sink reviews, sorry. He
Sink
just
reviews.
reviews different sinks. And I think that would be a perfect like collab that if you guys wanted to hit him
What?
up.
Or
Yeah.
listening to like the Yeah Dog guy with like
Yeah, yes. It's like that same genre of yeah, that would be great. I'll send you his link.
Yes, please.
But what are like some trends that we've seen recently? I actually don't know off the top of my head what trends are popular right now.
well JoJo Siwa.
Okay.
Oh.
How can we use JoJo
Karma's a
Siwa to
bitch.
talk about water faucets?
Should've known better.
Yes.
That's the
There's definitely something there.
Let me find.
We'll give JoJo a little break. She's going through it lately. Cool. I'm trying to think of the trends that I've done recently. I stopped kind of doing the TikTok trends because I feel like 2020 was like peak. 2021 maybe peak TikTok trend. Like, who remembers that? Me pan, ju. That still is in my head. So
I have one. I know how we could use JoJo Siwa.
let's hear it. I'm curious actually.
So for NR 3.1D, we could apply this to property owners that own rentals, and we can be like, karma's a bitch. It's time for you guys to update your infrastructure to make it more energy efficient. Here's how you can do it.
Literally, honestly,
Yep. And then fade out with karma's a bitch. You should have done better. Anyway, and there
but
you
you
go.
have to dress like her too when you're doing it. You gotta.
No. I draw the line there. Maybe if we have some interns this summer.
Oh, that'd be good.
Just kidding.
Sweet. There was something else too. Like, talk about.
Queer, Brown, Vegan, and I were invited.
Sorry.
Queer, Brown, Vegan, and I were invited to attend a clean energy freedom.
Let's talk about that hook. So, what do we think? Would that get you to stop scrolling?
No, it wouldn't.
I'm not trying to like brag on you, but like I feel like that was a certain video that didn't need like you weren't trying to hook people with that, but
No.
like, just as an example, probably wouldn't stop scrolling on that.
Nope.
Sorry.
Okay.
But Queer Brown Vegan, this is Isaiah's right here. That's his @ name. So, ironically, Queer Brown Vegan, that is exactly how he identifies, but those are also what I would consider trigger words because immediately people are going to be like, all right, I know exactly what you're about and I don't want to hear it. When in reality, they could align pretty much almost to the end with Isaiah and not have any idea.
Isaiah is super interesting. So he is born in Los Angeles. He is an activist. He's all for access to water. He's all for indigenous rights. He's all for responsible veganism. He's not the type of person that's going to just come up to you and be like, you have to be a vegan immediately. He understands the nuances of the food system and how it works. He is honestly one of the most fascinating and knowledgeable people that
Easily.
I know.
Absolutely, yeah. And so also in Eco Talk, there's about 19 of us. Essentially, we just kind of started a group chat. And what I really found the most value personally out of Eco Talk was back to that imposter syndrome. I could not face like the stats, the figures, the numbers. I felt so fake saying that stuff because I didn't study it and I felt like I was fraudulent. But then being in Eco Talk and surrounding myself with like people like Doria, Elena, Isaiah, it really helped me be able to not only talk about those topics a lot more comfortably, but also some of these topics are not even for me to speak on. Like some of these topics are way better from Doria's voice and Isaiah's voice. And I'm somebody that has the platform, so instead of me just kind of parroting what you're saying, come onto my platform, say what you want in front of my audience, because I think at the end of the day, that is what's really gonna resonate with those people is from someone that has experienced it or it's affecting currently, hearing them talk about it as opposed to me just being on a green screen and being like, look how bad this is.
Yep.
It really takes that extra step in resonating. And so we're all over the place. We talk about water, soil quality, energy, plastic pollution, ocean conservation, veganism, animal rights, just pretty much everything we try to... Social justice. We try to hit every kind of aspect so that we're not overwhelmed. I know a lot of times, especially in my community back home, something will happen and I get 5 texts immediately like, this is going on, talk about this, make a video about this.
Remember Red Tide?
Yes.
That's
I had to
great
stop.
example.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
So back in 2021, there was a massive red tide that happened. Red tide is, I see some nods. That is essentially like K. brevis is the algae that essentially eutrophies the top of the bay and cuts off the light supply to the fish. So there's a lot of fish dying, and like we had a record amount of fish. I think it was 60 tons.
Yeah, you're saying all the metrics, and you're correct.
Yeah, right?
See?
I threw myself into it.
Evolution.
And like, even that too is like when I got to the point of like learning how that happened. So, and this was one of those situations where it was really nuanced to talk about, and I had to make multiple videos like giving the context before I could add my new point. And that was because like, red tide is a naturally occurring thing that happens, and it's been happening. It's been documented by the like colonization settlements that were here. And so, but it's getting worse. And like, for me, the best way that I found to describe it that really helps visualize it is fire is also a naturally occurring thing. But if you pour gasoline on a fire, it's gonna burn brighter, hotter, and bigger. And that's essentially what we're doing with the bay by dumping. The Piney Point situation was really unfortunate. There was, back in 2001, a wastewater treatment plant went out of business and the county was supposed to do something with it and they're just like, nah. So over 20 years, the foundation of the wastewater pool cracked. And they were like, we can either let it all dump into the bay, which was about 500 million gallons of wastewater. So they decided to just drain the top level, which was like something like that, 4 million gallons, right into the bay. That was in January. And at that time, I was already starting to be like, this is gonna cause a red tide.
Yep.
And everyone was like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then the red tide came, and it was so bad. Like, you couldn't walk on the beach without stepping on a fish. There was Goliath groupers, which are massive fish being killed by this, manatees, dolphins. Our beaches were littered with dead fish.
I remember there was a point where you were filming the dead fish, and I feel like you learned a lot about responsibility there because people would see the dead fish and get.
And that,
Yeah.
So yeah, that was another thing too, is like TikTok started flagging it at first, and I was like, why? And then I realized like some of it was pretty harsh imagery. And that even happens to, like, TikTok is a little bit iffy on some things. They'll really let you, but I showed a condom wrapper one time that I found and they flagged the video.
Yep.
But
Remember
that
what
did
happened
help me
to
like,
Henry?
that did help me like realize like, because my audience is so young, I want to have like a responsible visualization to match what I'm talking about. I forgot to mention this earlier too in the class, but the first time I really realized the responsibility I have as a creator, I was at 1.5 million followers, and I was doing that series where if you send me a video, I'll duet it. And I got tagged in this video in the Philippines of Manila Bay. It was a beautification. So it was this gnarly beach that was trashed, and then it just kind of like did a little cute star transition. And it was this beautiful white sand, no trash, beautiful beach. So I duetted, and I was like, this is awesome. Shout out to the Philippines, this is great. Like, all this trash is gone. And then all of the comments, the video hit like 1 million views overnight, and all of the comments were like, no, 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 look into this. Our president is corrupt. And I was like, whoa. So I started doing some research, and apparently President Duterte was unethically sourcing their sand from a barrier island that was sacred to the Philippines. And so, and then even on top of that, they didn't do enough research to figure out how to keep the sand on the beach. So a month later, it washed away. So they kind of just did that for nothing. So I made a follow-up video. I was like, I know I said this is great, but it's great they picked up the trash, but this is really the nuances of this. And then all of my comments were from like the right side of the Philippines being like, you should have left it at one video. This is propaganda, all this stuff. And I'm sitting in my room in Florida, like,
Having never been to the Philippines.
never.
Yeah.
And I was like, how did I upset the entire Philippines in 2 videos? So I was like, I can't just go on here and say whatever I'm thinking now. I really got to know what I'm expressing. And on top of that, I've been very fortunate to land in a time where the Union of Concerned Scientists has
I was
opened
literally
their arms.
just about to bring that up.
Better Internet
Yep.
Initiative. These are organizations that have teams of researchers that will really dive into any topic that you are kind of wanting to express, and they will give you the backed research so that you can make a video feeling comfortable about the information that you're standing on, and then back it up in the comments as well. And that's one of those things to see, like, oh, that didn't exist when we started. We would take tweets and be like, look at this, it's terrible.
One time I had to apologize to Jeff Bezos.
That's how you know you messed up.
I know. So, do you remember when Jeff Bezos was going to space? I think he still is. I made a video. I was like, Jeff Bezos is taking his fossil fuel jet to space, or rocket, but it turns out it was a hydrogen rocket. So I had to make a video that was like, it was a hydrogen rocket. I'm sorry. So early on, I learned about responsibility and research before posting. And that's just something that I think is important.
Yeah.
And that community can really help, not just the community that we live in, but also, the community that we've developed on social media through EcoTalk and friendships. We check each other all the time.
Yes.
In a non-public way. Instead of like calling each other out in the comments, we check each other in the DMs.
And I think it's also a huge, like, it says a lot about who you are and your character when you get something wrong and you bring it to the attention of the people that you got it wrong to.
Yeah.
And say, hey, I messed this up and here's why.
And apologize to Jeff Bezos. I did see we had one question.
Oh yeah. Is that okay? Because I can read
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
No, it's
Okay.
fine.
I was just wondering, you guys are talking a lot about like responsibility and using your platform, to broaden certain topics, And I just think it's interesting because I think generally celebrities now have the expectation to use their voice when some crisis is going on. And I was wondering, as you know, influencers, but specifically environmental influencers, if you think there is that responsibility for more general celebrities to use their very large platforms
Can I
to
take that one?
share their,
Yeah.
you know, share information on the crisis.
Can I restate the question real quick? So the
Yes.
question is, do we think celebrities should have the responsibility to talk about environmental issues with their platforms?
So I think that that's such an important commercial question. I don't consider, do you consider yourself a celebrity? I don't consider myself a
No,
celebrity.
no.
But whenever there's an issue, I do get a ton of DMs asking me to speak on a topic. And I do think that celebrities and people who have platforms have a responsibility, but I also think that they have a responsibility to educate themselves before they speak. And coming from the side of a person with a platform, when breaking news happens, you will get hundreds of
What?
DMs.
Someone took the time to like so satisfyingly organize the
really
toy
bad
box.
timing.
I mean, we got different categories of fucking whoever did this. I've been meaning to turtle this team. These crooks are.
Oh, that was a lot of Colin.
I hear my voice all the time like that,
Yeah.
and it still triggered me.
Yep. So when there's a breaking news event, you'll get hundreds of DMs, and there'll be a bunch of people on different sides of an issue asking you to say something that is what they believe is right, or to say some sort of fact or statistic. And they want you to do this in a minute. Like, they want this up like within hours of the event happening, days. And if you take too long, it's, why are you taking too long? You don't have enough of a stance on this. Like, let's go. But the issue is that these celebrities and creators might not be educated on the topic in the first place, so they can't just pick the first DM that they see and be like, all right, this is my stance. They have to do the research. They have to talk to people. They have to understand what's going on. And that could take days, it could take weeks, it could take months. So I think that it's important for people to use their platforms to talk about these issues, but it's also important for them to come from a responsible place where they understand what's going on. And if their platform can effectively be used for that, to take that time and then take a stance and then say something about it.
That's
So-
what I was gonna agree with that point. Like Ashton Kutcher talking about sex trafficking. That makes sense to me. I think that like
You just went there. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I did. But like he's using his platform, I think, in a way that is really actually making that impact. But when certain celebrities, like say you're a reality TV show celebrity and you're weighing in on global politics issues, like that for me perpetuates performative activism. And I think there's a thin line between like using your platform to raise awareness and using your platform to virtue signal or try to like push your own agenda. And I think that really comes down to, and I hate putting the responsibility on the viewer, but you really got to know who you're watching, and you really got to be able to back up what they're saying yourself.
Yep,
So
do your own research.
especially in a like election year like this, you got to know what is misinformation, and the difference between misinformation and disinformation is huge, because disinformation is easier to spot in my opinion because it's someone actively trying to deceive you and coming up with lies to create a different mindset. Misinformation is someone who just got it wrong and just like messed
Believe
up.
the first DM they saw about
Yeah.
the breaking news. Yeah.
And so like you could trust somebody and they could get it right 90% of the time, but you got to check every single time because that one time might be misinformation. And that comes down on the creator as well, is like as soon as you realize that's misinformation, squash it,
Yep.
fix it. And if they don't, that's when it comes on to the viewer of like, I can tell that's misinformation. And then also, I want to make this point back to the community aspect. There's been a lot of talk of like in my county of like asking me to join the council, and like personally,
I'm pro this, but I know you don't want to.
I think it's great. Young people should be running for council. Personally, I've noticed that I could make a parallel impact without having to jump through the hoops of working under the government entity. And the meeting that I had with my mayor, Lisa, she was essentially just saying, like, you are really great at your activism. You just need somebody to help with the bureaucracy on the back end. And that partnership between me and my mayor, I feel like is kind of what that's building is, like, she can handle the things that I don't understand in the areas in the rooms that I just won't know what to do. And I can bring the information about our beach and also encourage people to help our beach in certain ways from what I have. So it's like this really cool partnership that I'm seeing like blossom. And if you would have told me 5 years ago that a local government would have been collabing with an influencer, like, I would have laughed at you. That's not real.
Yeah.
And now it's changing, and that's how fast this is. And that's what I mean by this is the Wild West. Back home where I live, his name is the Trash Wolf, and you guys should check him out. He's awesome. So he just decided, like, I'm gonna dress up like a wolf and I'm gonna pick up trash. Custom made a wolf costume in Ukraine, and like he'll just be on the side of the road, full wolf costume, picking up trash. And he started that, I wanna say, like last May, and now he's pretty much at the point where he's doing this full time. And that's how open this space is. That's how needed this information and these voices are, is like, this is wide open. And if you can find your space, your voice, your pocket, you can really start seeing that impact. Like, I sometimes I'll get a little bit overwhelmed when I really sit and think about like what has come in the wake of like me just deciding to pick up trash one day. And I can't do that right now because I'll get a little overwhelmed. But I love just watching, yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt you mid-sentence. One thing that maybe I want to ask this for the audience because it's interesting to me. Can you just talk a little bit about YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, like how you think about those different audiences and those platforms?
So the question was, can you tell us about all the different social media platforms and how those platforms differ in their niche, kind of? So TikTok is very much young people. TikTok is going to be your more, I think, fun, free-form type content where you can just kind of put anything on there, something silly, something crazy, and it will do well. Whereas Instagram I see as more like polished content. They want to see really good camera angles. They want to see clear filming. They want to see aesthetics. And stuff like that. On Facebook is a hard one for me. I try never to post on Facebook because sometimes Facebook audiences can become a little bit more upset than other audiences. But they like the stuff that's on Instagram, and they're kind of like that group that gets Instagram and TikTok content like a month later. So they're that group. They're the not old news, but like they'll consume your content in a month. And then YouTube, I don't post on YouTube, so I'll let you talk about that.
I think my experience is a little bit different too in terms of the demographics.
Because
but
you
I
have kids, yeah.
Yeah, so most of my audience is like on across the board kids, but I will say, like, demographics on TikTok, that's when I have an international following on TikTok. So it's like 2.2 million, 18 to 24, mostly young girls is my main majority following. And Project Drawdown, I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with that, but that was a project that collected like a bunch of policymakers, business owners, entrepreneurs, legislators, just people to get in a room and be like, what are the top 100 ways we can fight the climate crisis today? Not things that we can implement in the future, things that we have right now. And like solar panels was, I want to say, like above number 10. Electric vehicles was above number 10. Number 6 was educating young girls with the understanding that they're going to take that information and implement it in some way further down their lives. But then I go on Instagram and my following is 18 to 24, mostly guys. So
That's like, that niche is just so rare too.
right? I didn't even expect that. I saw that. I was like, when did that happen? And so for me, it's like I obviously want to cater to what has been stated as the number 6 most impactful thing to do to fight climate change. Obviously, I want to cater my content to younger girls that would take that information. But I also don't want to just be like, all right, the guys are awash. We can't we can't focus on them, because I really genuinely don't believe that that's the case. Like, I do think there's a lot of young boys that care about this and can find a lot of fun in it, and I would hate to just like ignore them. So that's more of like on Instagram, I'm making Fortnite references and doing like goofier things that I know I at 14 would have loved to see. And then, but also on Instagram, it's super hyper local to either St. Pete or people planning on moving to St. Pete. And St. Pete's just a little place in Pinellas County, Tampa Bay area in Florida. And we just got named by TripAdvisor the second best of the best destination to visit. It goes Napa Valley, St. Pete. And so when we have Clearwater Beach, and we got named #1 beach in the US back in 2013, and I watched so much international tourism come to that beach just because of its ranking on this TripAdvisor list. And that was just the beaches. So we got the second best of the best destination. So it's been this really fascinating, like, kind of scramble earlier this year of all of these organizations that are constantly fighting for sustainability and like conservation, preservation, coming together and be like, how do we deal with this? And so right as we're going into spring break too, Miami was like, hey, remember that spring break that you planned here? Nah. Miami basically said, don't come for a spring break. They gave us like, they gave curfews, everything. So immediately I was like, that's really cool to see a community take that step and that initiative and be like, you guys keep trashing this place, stop coming. And then, but immediately realizing they're just gonna come to Tampa right after. And so it's been wild. We have noticed a huge bump in population and in terms of like traffic, in terms of amount of people going to the beaches, parking. And so like with that amount, I can genuinely stand here and say like, I haven't seen personally it get to a point where it's like, this is too much. I think we've seen the burst and we've been able to anticipate it and work with it. And that's because I think in St. Pete, we have one of the most collaborative group and networks that I've seen in my travels in the last 5 years. And at first it wasn't like that. We have 8 beaches, like I said. And if you have a beach cleanup organization on one beach and there's another organization on the beach next to you, you guys are fighting for the same funding, which kind of gives that competition between come to my cleanup, come to my cleanup. You guys are like 5 miles apart. It's not really that big of it. But we're finally at the point where it's like, okay, we're all doing the same thing and caring about the same thing. How do we shift our focus from funding to actual impact?
Quick question for you. And is that organizing happening on Instagram or is it happening on Facebook?
That is in real life.
That's in real life.
That's-
so how did
yeah.
they get the word out about those?
I'm just gonna give a quick little shout out. Her name's Jane Goodall. And she's been having a presence in Tampa Bay recently. And so she's kind of just been, her organization, her institute has taken the steps to kind of pull all of these organizations and entities together and be like, how do we do this? And like, what's the best way to kind of educate the younger generation here in Tampa Bay? And so it's just really cool to see like that movement happening. And I've already seen the beach like get like everybody when they go out there, they're like, I'm telling people all day, make sure you fill in that hole, knock down that sandcastle. And not to be a Karen, but it's like also they go about it in a way that's like really respectful. And it's like as soon as you tell them about the sea turtles, nobody's gonna be like, we don't like turtles. Like normally people are like, all right, cool, that's easy. And it's a sandcastle, it's not gonna stay up forever. So just having that community engagement too, I've seen, I know I'm rambling right now, but this is one point I really wanna make. I was in a YouTube conference 2014, like when I was just getting started, and one of the creators had said, word of mouth is the most powerful form of marketing. And I could not figure out how to get people to talk about the things that I cared about until I just started talking about it myself. And what I realized was awareness is contagious. You just talk about it, and then in 2 weeks, you'll hear someone telling you the things you're talking about. And you're like, wow, this is really full circle. And so that's what I say when people say, what can I do to get started? What can I do right now? It doesn't seem like it's a lot, and it almost seems like nothing, but just talk about the things that you care about, and you'll see it spread. There's a point I was gonna wrap that up on.
It's okay. Do we have any other questions?
So y'all kind of started this talking about like your demographics and like how they differ.
Yep.
And so I wanted to know, like, are there any specific like topic in environmentalism that your respective demographics here on like, a certain platform, like specifically ERC? Like, are they really engaged in like veganism, or are they really engaged in like trees, like that kind of thing?
That's a
So one thing I've done, so the question was, how do different demographics interact with certain types of content? So where my social media journey differs from Colin is that I have had so many different niches, it's ridiculous. I started off just talking about eco swaps, like different things you can do to be more sustainable at home. And I found that that type of content really does well with people in my age group, that 25 to 35-year-old age group, people who are just starting off in their first apartment or in their homes or something like that. So that type of content does really well. And then I went apocalyptic for a while. So I had a hydroponic farm in my house, which I just started up again. And all of my content was about the zombie apocalypse and how I prepared my house to be like the best place to go if there is an apocalypse. And I would make like different scenarios up. Like if there was a zombie apocalypse, here's how I would reorder society. And it would just be all like eco things, like, and different policies I would put in place. And people ate that up. And when I was doing the zombie apocalypse content, I saw my male following increase like crazy. Anything like survival, prepping, that type of content just did really well with the age group between like 18 to like 35. Even like I had a group of like 65-year-olds that just loved my prep content. And then I had a series called Hey White Allies, which is my least favorite series I've ever done, but it was in 2020 during all of the Black Lives Matter stuff. And that content touched so many people and so many age groups. I had a equal split between men and women following at that time. It was the most age groups I ever touched. People were between the ages of 18 and 55 that were looking at my content every single day. And that was just, I don't know if I could ever emulate that again, but it was just like lessons on how to be a better white ally. And at the time, it was really needed. It wasn't something that would do very well right now for a lot of different reasons, because people aren't very receptive to learning right now. But that just did really well at the time. So I think it's knowing a sign of the times, like knowing what's going on around you and what people really need at that time.
Yeah, I meant to mention this earlier too. Like, there's evergreen content that can live forever. Like, here's a good recycling practice.
Yeah.
And then there's like
You have evergreen content.
yeah, but when Red Tide happened, I felt like that was super right now. Like,
Yeah.
this is happening. And then there's certain topics like for TikTok when I know that there's an international following versus my Instagram, but I still want to make the video about the same thing. For instance, there was a boat that just unanchored and washed ashore. I could take that situation, and for TikTok, I'm gonna frame it as a more like global thing as like, this is the biggest piece of trash I've ever found, or something like that. Like, and then for St. Pete specifically, I would dial it down to like, make sure you're anchoring your boats properly and like be a good boater practices. And then even on top of that, like I think there's a lot now, a common sentiment at this point that if you make trash content, it's almost kind of like a cheat code as to getting a bunch of people to follow you, because it's like, that person's doing good. But then like, there's also videos that are still in the same genre of like picking up trash that will like get people so mad. I'm trying to think of certain things. Like, if I talk about veganism is one of them. You can talk about veganism on any app and you will get the same amount of like, the comment section is gonna be the same. People defend tooth and nail against veganism. And like, so that's something that you gotta be really intentional about how you're crafting that messaging. And even I've seen it, someone just announces that they're vegan. And it's like, people go in on them. It's like, I'm not even telling you to change your life. Like, so that's a hot topic thing that I think is really, and there's certain times that you want to lean into that engagement. I was mentioning this earlier, like, there's certain comments that I'll get, and if I start seeing them pop up in my notifications, I know that video is about to go viral. It'll be things like, your voice is really weird, or why, like something like that. Because as soon as that like
Oh my
opposite
God.
engagement starts to
Remember
happen.
my hair gel video? You know,
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah.
That was bad. Anyway, we're not going to talk about it, but it went very, very viral on the EcoTalk page.
It did. We have another question.
Yeah, so you touched on this earlier, but I kind of want to follow up, like, here, when we're studying, we have like all these things we want to say about a topic. And so I can see that like when we make content, it's like different ideas. Or like, so can you talk a little bit more about how to break up? If we wanted to talk about maybe energy justice or some aspect of the Nashua sustainability plan, like how to break it up into digestible pieces, that content. What's your process like with that?
Yep.
It's a lot of just like
Repeat the
knowing.
question.
Yeah. Okay. So the question is, how can you
How can you make the content digestible for the harder topics that you
Yes.
want to talk about?
So take it like this is something the Union of Concerned Scientists will do. They will send us a research paper that has like all like just straight up facts, and taking that and trying to boil it down into a video is you can kind of approach it in a bunch of different ways. Series have been super popular, and just for instance, on my own personal account, I was talking about travel, like sustainable travel, ecotourism, and kind of. So this is actually a great point for that. The Better Internet Initiative will send me videos, and their whole goal is to get that information into people's minds, no matter how it is. So I will make, when they send me information, my immediate reaction is to make a whole short form video of the information. But sometimes those videos come off as ads, and it feels a little addy, so
Yep.
people just scroll right past it, even though I'm not selling you, I'm just telling you stuff. So what we've started working with them recently on my content is I'll go do a regular video like one of these, but then I'll slip in like 5 to 10 seconds of just like me talking about or giving further context with that research where it's like number heavy. And then just slipping right back into the video as if like that was just a normal thing I always do. And even sometimes I'll do it when I'm not even making a BII video, like it'll just happen. And I think I've realized that works a lot better is those little bite-sized bits is, or really painting the perception in a different light, like reframing it. There was a girl that got buried from digging a 5-foot hole on the beach. And so I kind of framed it as like, whenever you walk past a construction site, you're gonna see them enforcing the walls of any hole that they dig, and that's dirt. So like when you're on a beach with loose sand and people are walking around, it's so much easier for that to fall in. And using something as recognizable as like a construction site, I think is easier to give more information while using an example that kind of helps people follow along with what you're saying. But sometimes I come into the problem of like, I'm putting too much in that people are scrolling and it's not making the impact that I could if I put less in and just made more videos.
One thing I want to talk about is how to make a video from start to finish. So if I were asked to make a video about, here, we'll use a real life example. I'm supposed to make a video about plastic waste and how the responsibility of plastic waste is on the fossil fuel industry that has encouraged people to use plastic as wrapping and just really have promoted that as like something that we now see as regular. We see plastic bottles as regular, our food coming in plastic as regular. So I'm supposed to take that topic and boil it down into a 30-second video and get people to understand it. So the way I start is by storyboarding, which is something I learned from Abby. So I have these little boxes with frames and shots that I want to do. So I'll say, I'll do my first shot head on and I have to make my hook. So I haven't made this yet, so maybe we'll do it right now. So I can say, do you know the average person has X amount of microplastics in their body right now? And I'm gonna be like, why is that? So I'll be like, next shot in my storyboard, I'm gonna go to a different location, and then I'm gonna say, that's because plastics were normalized by the fossil fuel industry this year, and it all started here. And next frame, I'll have another storyboard and go so on and so forth. So I've created a hook, I've created all the shots that I'm going to do and the lines that I'm going to say. So now I can just take those squares and I can just make them real life. I already know everything I'm about to do, and because it's all planned. So that's the way I would go about making a video. And the way I gear it towards different groups, like that video I'm making is for Instagram. And I already have a very solid Instagram following. They're going to be happy that I made a video about plastic waste. It's something that they're all really interested in already. So I don't have to do anything extra to get them to be engaged with that clip. It's going to be on their feed. It's going to be something they're going to watch. But if it was going to be on TikTok, I would say something different. Maybe I would say, it's the fossil fuel industry's fault that you have X amount of microplastics in your body right now. That video, that hook would actually probably do really well, would unsettle people a little bit. Like, I have microplastics in my body and it's the fossil fuel industry's fault, so they might watch the video all the way through. So that's how I would change my hook according to the platform and audience. Yeah.
And also too, like, this is a lot of work. I think being a creator, a traditional creator, it's a lot less work. But this is like, we all stopped, Dory and I got into this not because we want to be famous and like have a bunch of stuff. Like, we genuinely, authentically care about the impact that we're making. And that's something that I check myself on all the time, is this is not about how many followers or views I can get. It's really about how I can help make an impact in any way that I can. And that really comes with removing your ego from the things that you're doing. There's a lot of times where I've said no to brand deals that have been, once in a lifetime trips, but clearly greenwashing. And at the end of the day, do I want a fun 7-day cruise, or do I want to like really set out to do what I set out to? And so I said no. And that was one of those things where I never look back at that and regret it. But that's something that I'm aware is gonna continue to happen, is I'm gonna have to say no to certain things, that certain dollar amounts even, that's never gonna equate to what I'm trying to do. And then even still, like, there's some instances where there's a company that is not sustainable at all, but they're trying to start authentically and genuinely to the point where I feel comfortable being like, this is a company that's trying. So it doesn't even have to be a brand or a company or an initiative that is already there, but let's help them. I'm not somebody that's like, you can't collab with me until you're at zero emissions. That sounds ridiculous to me. So like, really vetting everything that comes through and like really understanding what is going to be the ultimate impact or the ultimate consequence from this just keeps you going, keeps you working too.
So it looks like we're at time.
Is there like any last minute questions? Cool.
All right, cool. Thank you
All right,
so
thank
much.
you guys so much. Cool. Let's do